Oh, what a show we have on tap for you guys tonight on this Friday to cap what has been a crazy week in sports. Going to talk about a crazy story. The NBA betting scandal regarding Terry Rozier and Damon Jones and Chauncey Billups. Why their ramifications for this could be massive, as well as the regulations that I believe we should put in place in order to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again in the NBA or in any sport. Talk about that. Why Steph Curry remains not just the baddest man in the history of the game of basketball, but one of, if not the most dangerous player in the NBA. Talk about that. The one way for the LA Chargers to contend. They won last night over the Vikings. Volview is back this week. Tennessee trying to get a bounce back win. Going to talk about the World Series. Predict that. Nick Saban is dead wrong about NIL. Talk about that. And at the end of today's show, it's weekend NFL predictions, which means, of course, if I were a bet man, my three favorite games of the week that I would bet if I were a bet man, upset of the week, and Bryce's Bleak Bet. We've got a ton, as my voice cracks, to talk about on tonight's show. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver, and as you heard in the open, boy, do we have a Friday show in tap for you guys tonight. Again, going to spend a lot of the next, 10, 15 minutes or so on this betting scandal that has everybody talking. NBA fans, sport fans, heck, people who don't care anything about sports. Like, what is going on here? So good to talk about, obviously, Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, and Chauncey Billups, and rumors are there could be potentially more notable NBA names involved in the scandal. Again, we're not going to speculate. We're going to wait as more information comes out. Certainly, I would imagine by Monday or by Wednesday of next week, we'll have more on it, which we'll talk about. Obviously, Steph Curry. Are you shocked that the baddest man in the history of the game of basketball did what he did last night in the fourth quarter overtime against the Denver Nuggets? Little belated, but I really wanted to talk about Victor Wembanyama and kind of give an analogy as to why he is absolutely on pace to be the best player in the world in very short order. He's not there yet, but he's going to get there very, very soon. NFL predictions, World Series predictions, Volview, the typical Friday stuff. I guess World Series predictions isn't exactly typical for a Friday. It's once a year in late October. But this is why, I'm going to talk Chargers too. The football topic on a Friday after a Thursday night game is third on the list, because that's the kind of week that we've had, the last few kind of days that we've had. So let's get right into it. But first, wow, I did not think I'd be leading my Friday show with this particular story. So, as exposed by the New York Times, ABC News, and a number of other news sources, there is a massive betting scandal revolving around the NBA, which led to the arrest of Damon Jones, former player in the NBA, Terry Rozier, current player for the Miami Heat, and maybe the most shocking current head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers and 2004 Finals MVP, Chauncey Billups. All of which are in trouble for things revolving around sports gambling, and Chauncey's situation is a little bit different, and we'll touch on that in just a moment. Terry Rozier is the most straightforward. It essentially alleges, and again, this is all allegations, that with all three of these men and potentially more will have their day in court, right? So this is all allegations. None of this has been proven true or false. It's never a good sign when the FBI has you hemmed in to a certain degree, when the FBI says you committed a certain amount of crimes, but I digress. On Terry Rozier, current player for the Miami Heat, he is being accused of betting the unders on prop bets, which, for those that may not know, basically if there's a line that says Terry Rozier over under 18.5 points, right? There'll be fans on BetMGM or FanDuel, DraftKings or Hard Rock or ESPN Bet that will go on these sports books and bet over under Terry Rozier 18.5 points. Was he score more than that or less than that? Well, Terry Rozier would often, or at least this as being alleged, would fake an injury early in the game so that the under would hit. Therefore, he would win money. And again, we'll get to why I think he did it. I think it's pretty straightforward as well. But that's the allegation. For Damon Jones, according to the New York Times, Damon Jones, according to the indictment, Jones, who was a friend of LeBron James, and by the way, was kind of like a special consultant with the Los Angeles Lakers when Darvin Ham was the head coach there, and he played with LeBron, so he's close with LeBron. I think there's no way on planet Earth LeBron knew anything about this. But here's what it alleges. Cited in the FBI investigation into the gambling ring was a February 9th, 2023 Lakers-Bucks game that LeBron missed after being ruled out due to ankle soreness. Before that game, Jones allegedly texted an unnamed co-conspirator that a player would miss the game and that they should bet on the Bucks instead. That player had not been listed on the injury report yet. LeBron would miss the next two Laker game before returning for the team's final game for All-Star break. So essentially Damon Jones, would provide insider information to the Lakers, and who knows, maybe for other teams, because former NBA player, he has insight that most of us do not, to co-conspirators, to people who are betting and be able to make money off of this. Chauncey Billups, to me, is far and away the worst from a legal perspective, because his does not at least immediately concern, his situation does not immediately concern sports betting. That we know of. Chauncey Billups, and I want to make sure I get this right because I don't want to give false information on a case this serious. Chauncey Billups is being accused of being involved in a high-tech gambling poker scheme. Essentially saying, this is what the report says. The technology included poker chip tray analyzers and tampered shuffling machines that could send information about players' hands to an off-site operator. U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, Joseph Nocella said, prosecutors claim the poker ring defrauded victims of millions of dollars, with Billups allegedly involved in defrauding victims of at least $50,000. So, and apparently he's involved with the mafia too, which is even wilder, is Chauncey Billups, allegedly. And this goes back to 2019, according to the indictment. If this is true, and by the way, the fact that Chauncey, we got the Terry Rozier news and Damon Jones. I don't know of Damon Jones as much as I did Rozier, obviously, who had already had some shady business in regards to prop bets in years past. 2 years ago, the NBA investigated him and cleared him. So evidently, I guess the NBA didn't find anything wrong, but regardless, I'm sure the FBI is going to look into that. Chauncey is the most shocking. Because Chauncey got me Mr. Big Shot, right? This is a Hall of Famer. This is the 2004 Finals MVP back when the Detroit Pistons upset the Shaq and Kobe Lakers in the 2004 Finals. And this was a guy kind of known as like this mature, great leader. I mean, it's why he's a coach, right? He's at least currently starting his fourth year as the head coach, or fifth year as the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers. He's always kind of had like a coach on the floor, mature type of vibe about him, a type of reputation about him. So this was shocking. And if it is true, Chauncey Billups is in really big trouble, because if he was involved, and again, the mafia is tied into this, La Cosa Nova, I think is the mafia. This is theft, like straight up. I'm no lawyer, not going to play one on this podcast. This is stealing money, just point blank. If he knew the outcomes of the poker games, and those who participated did not, and he was able to profit off of this and was involved in a high-tech scheme that, again, was able to send in the information, was able to send in, the information, whatever cards that the participants were playing or what have you, that's stealing. That is theft in every sense of the word. And so of the three, Damon Jones, Terry Rozier, and we'll touch on Terry Rozier in particular in just a second, and Chauncey Billups, to me, this is the most serious. This is the one that could involve potential prison time. And again, all alleged. You got to see how it plays out. This is going to be a situation that plays out for a long time. The FBI comes to your door. The feds come to your door. You know it's serious, and you also know it's going to take a while. So what I find the most interesting, I guess, aspect of the conversation surrounding this, because listen, I'm never played poker in my life. I can't speak to poker the way that others can. I can't do it. But what this has inevitably turned into a conversation of is, okay, these leagues have gotten in bed in the last few years or so. The NBA, NFL, baseball, go up and down the list. They've gotten in bed with these gambling companies. You name it. BetMGM, ESPN Bet, Hard Rock, go up and down the list. FanDuel, DraftKings. When previously it was like, it was really taboo. I mean, there's a reason for years that people didn't want professional sports in Vegas. Like now we have the Aces, we have the Raiders, we have, all these teams. We're potentially going to get a potential NBA team in Vegas at some point in the future. LeBron has talked about that. It was like, man, we can't have pro sports in Vegas. If these leagues are to continue their relationship with these gambling companies, I think the Adam Silvers of the world, Roger Goodell, Rob Manfred in his remaining time as a commissioner of Major League Baseball, and whoever his successor is, and all professional sports leagues commissioners have to put their foot down and say, again, by the way, this partnership benefits these leagues financially. We know this. Obviously, it's mutually beneficial. They have to put their foot down and say, for the integrity of the sport, you will have to acquiesce to some regulations that we'll have to put in place. To me, noteworthy, and this is not an original idea of mine. I've heard it brought to life by gamblers, and I think it's a brilliant idea. In terms of player prop bets, the under has to be abolished, like full stop. Because if, for example, I use Terry Rozier, 18.5 points per game. Let's say Terry Rozier, the line is 18.5 points per game. If Terry Rozier hits the over, I mean, I guess you could rig it if you're Terry Rozier to where it's, you take a million shots and you're not efficient, but hey, you hit the over. It's hard to do that than, hey, oh crap, coach, ankle hurts, hit the under. The under has to be abolished. It's bad for fans. It's bad for players. It's bad for leagues. They need to get rid of that. Over under in terms of total team point score. Like, for example, some of the games this weekend, like there's a game that I think is going to be really low scoring this weekend between the Niners and the Texans. I think the over under is like 41. That's fine. Like that's two teams. Those are 22 players involved on the field at the same time. It's not going to be this big scheme. Everybody gets involved. Hey guys, hey Texans, hey Niners, let's all hit the under. That's never going to happen. Individual player, it can. And of course, you screw over your teammates in the process by hitting the under because you're not on the floor. You're valuable to the team, all of it. What this has also turned into a conversation of, inevitably, is those that say, see, this is why we can't have gambling in sports. We can't have this be a part of it. And what I would say to that is this. Any major industry that you try, any major $1 million industry that you try and ban entirely will result in a black market and much shadier behind the scenes stuff. See, the fact of the matter is, if the NBA is not involved with these sports books, Terry Rozier probably never gets caught. The NBA, part of the reason the NBA caught Terry Rozier on the dot, who the heck is betting Terry Rozier under points scored? Like it's not like it's, Nikola Jokic assist totals. It's not like that. It's who the heck is betting Terry Rozier for the Charlotte Hornets at the time to over under point totals. No one's doing that. So that right there is where they caught Terry Rozier. They're not able to do that if these gambling companies aren't in bed with these leagues. See, if it's some black market shady bookie, they probably never catch him. So the more regulation, the more eyeballs, the closer these leagues are to these sports books, the easier it is to detect shady behavior. Again, Chauncey Billups is a situation in and of itself. The NBA obviously had no knowledge of that. How could they? The solution for any industry, and I mean, you can go down the list. Gambling, alcohol, weed, sex, guns, up and down the list. The solution to fixing issues related to all of those is not to ban them entirely. Because if you do ban them entirely, like I said, you get a black market. Now you get shady behind the scenes stuff. Now you get a situation where there's less eyeballs on illegal behavior. The solution, I mean, we saw this with prohibition. I mean, for crying out loud, prohibition in the early 20th century, like, again, there was more legal activity. The mafia got involved. And eventually, FDR was like, yeah, we need to get rid of prohibition. This is ridiculous. Like, people are drinking alcohol. And so I think that's the aspect of all of this. I mean, the fact of the matter is, whether, again, from a moral perspective, I get people having any position they prefer on gambling. For me personally, I don't gamble. That's the very reason I have a segment on my show. Might as well play it, in lieu of this. The reason I call this segment,
Were I a betting man?
If I were a bet man. I don't judge those that do, for the simple fact of, man, who am I to judge if you want to have a secondary income, so to speak, betting on sports? Be responsible about it, but that also applies to alcohol. That also applies to a lot of other things, is about being responsible. Where it goes from here, because the Supreme Court made it legal back in 2018. Like, sports gambling is totally legal. The Supreme Court ruled that back in 2018. Like, that's we've crossed that bridge. Can't turn back the clock on that. The NBA, NFL, baseball, every professional sports league, heck, even college to a certain degree, has to put their foot down and say, hey, we're not going to sever our ties from you guys. Because again, the closer these leagues are to the betting companies, to the sports books, the better. That means a situation like a Terry Rozier, like a Damon Jones, gets detected before it gets worse. And I think the silver lining in all of this, and again, these are all allegations, is that should these allegations be proven true, and Rozier and Damon Jones will certainly be punished, and Chauncey Billups will get, I would imagine, I'm again no lawyer, a harsher punishment, because what he did was straight theft, or allegedly did was straight theft with the poker games, legal poker games. Hopefully, throw the book at those guys. If what they did is proven to be what they did, or what they allegedly did is proven to be true, it will discourage future players from engaging in such behavior. Because folks are asking, man, how could a Terry Rozier, who makes $26 million a year, he's not going to get those returns? Similar questions were asked about Jonte Porter. Remember, Jonte Porter recently got banned from the NBA for life. Michael Porter Jr.'s brother played for the Toronto Raptors. He was betting the unders on his stats, which was really dumb, because we talk about who's betting Terry Rozier. Who the heck is betting Jonte Porter over unders? He's a two-way player. So he got caught right on the spot by the NBA. And Kenny Smith, to his credit, talked about it last night in the NBA. Inside the NBA, it's addiction. It is. If you're addicted to anything, alcohol, drugs, pornography, gambling, you make decisions that you wouldn't if you were operating from a rational standpoint. You would never make those moves. Terry Rozier is not going to make close to a salary, not even a fraction, by betting over unders. And I don't want to sound like I'm psychoanalyzing a guy that I don't know. And again, we haven't gotten the information from Terry himself and his lawyers, and it's going to be a long process. That's the only explanation I can possibly come up with, because there's no upside in this. So, listen, we will keep you posted. We will continue to bring in more information as we have it here on Carving It Up. It's a messy situation. It's a really messy situation. And reportedly, the NBA did not know that the FBI was going to come out with this yesterday morning. Like, this blindsided the league too. So, but yeah, the Chauncey one, that one I couldn't believe. I'm like, this is straight up stealing. Like, there's no other way to put it. He's stealing money. Man, it's crazy. Patrick Brown's in the comments. What's up, Patrick? Happy Friday. This scandal has overshadowed a great opening week of the NBA. It's been a fantastic opening week in the NBA, and we'll talk about some of them in just a second. What's crazy is ESPN removed their logo for betting when they broke the story yesterday morning. Yeah, I saw that they were on Get Up, and Greeny was talking to the panel, and they had like the ESPN bet logo on, not the lower third, but on the little ticker, and like they just kind of slowly like they took it off, which yeah, it's not the greatest look. And I've seen podcasts, again, not judging, but I've seen podcasts. This podcast is brought to you by BetMGM. It's like, wow, okay. As we're talking about the ills of sports gambling, like I said, I don't like people. I've said this for years on Carving It Up. My least favorite type of person is the person who's self-righteous, because usually the most self-righteous people are the ones with the biggest skeletons in their closet. They're overcompensating. by imposing how their morality is just far supersedes yours. They're just an automatically better person. And usually if you have to keep telling me how good of a person you are, you're hiding something. And so I got no issue. Again, I'm not against, I don't partake. I don't gamble. It's just not something personally that I'm comfortable with for myself. That's why the segment is called If I Were a Bet Man on this show every Friday. For those that do, Supreme Court said you could do it. Be responsible. Again, like it's different. I mentioned regulation for certain industries and the gun industry, which I have detailed many times in the show. Personally, it's one of the political issues that is most near and dear to my heart because it is one that has impacted my generation in a horrifying way. It's different. Regulation for gambling and alcohol. Well, not really alcohol so much as it is like weed, for example. Those are almost separate from guns in the sense that really the only person you can damage their lives, again, you've got people around you, obviously, but it's really a one-way street to a certain degree. Like if you gamble and screw yourself over, I guess you could screw your family over from a financial standpoint, but ultimately you're the one that bears the brunt of the losings. Whereas guns is different. There's people that lose their lives as a result of that. So again, I'm always, and I don't think you should ever this is getting, I guess, a little political. I don't think any industry should be overregulated. California has had issues related to housing that it's just like every little thing with solar panels. It gets, that to me is where it gets a little bit of that's where I guess that my slight conservative leaning kind of leans in, like, guys, get out of my business. Like, it's all good. Everything's good. But in industries like this, multi-billion dollar industries, sports betting, alcohol, weed, guns, like the more eyeballs on it, the closer the powers that be are to it, as far as I'm concerned, the better. I think if the NBA were to sever their ties from the sports books, then illegal gambling runs wild. Then you have shame. We saw, look for no other better example than prohibition in the early 20th century. It didn't work. Matter of fact, it made it way worse. So there you go. All because you're trying to impose some sort of moral, man, as long as people are not hurting anybody, let them go about their lives. That's kind of my mindset on regulation with sports gambling and whatnot. All right, 23 minutes of the show. Like I said, I figured we'd spend a good amount of time on that because it's a huge story that's just going to continue to get more and more fascinating by the day. As we get more information, we will certainly bring it to you. I did see today that Kevin Garnett participated, I believe, in this is what I read. It participated in one of the poker games that Chauncey Billups was involved in. Reportedly, Garnett was not aware of the fact that they were fixed games, that they were rigged games. So, yeah, I think more and more notable NBA names are going to come out of this, and it's not a good look. All right, I'll tell you who is a good look for the NBA. That's the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. So, I said on Tuesday's show, an hour and a half before the game? Actually, it was about like less than an hour before the Warriors-Lakers opening night game on Peacock and NBC. I said in the show, the Warriors are going to win the title because Steph's still elite. Well, obviously, we'll talk about Steph in just a moment. Since they acquired Jimmy Butler, they've been the number one defense in basketball, even over Oklahoma City. They have size now, which we'll talk about in this segment as well. Draymond's still elite defensively. The young guys like the Pajemskis, like the Moses Moody's, will only get better. Jonathan Kuminga, who to me was the ultimate wild card. Holy crap, he looks good. Best he's ever looked as a Warrior, particularly his jump shot. Arguably the best coach in basketball. It's either Kerr or Eric Spoelstra. I'll probably give Spoelstra the nod, but Kerr's right behind him. Depth. I mean, the Warriors are legit 12, 13 deep. Not kidding. That's what they bring to the table. And since they've acquired Jimmy, they have the third best record in the league in that span. If not for an injury to Steph, they certainly get to the Western Conference Finals. Ain't no way they'll lose to Minnesota. Regardless. Last night was a great kind of measuring stick game, and that's what I said on Wednesday's show after the win against the Lakers. I'm like, I'm really excited for tomorrow night because personally, and I said this before the year, I think Denver and Golden State is going to be the Western Conference Finals. I think those are the two best teams in the West. I think what Denver did in the offseason in regards to depth, bringing Jonas Valanciunas and Bruce Brown and swapping Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson, to me was a big upgrade. And David Adelman's now in his first full year in Denver. And Jokic is still the best player in the world. And Jamal Murray looks like he's finally in shape to start a season. Like, Denver's scary. Denver took OKC 7 games last year. Denver's a very scary basketball team. And you saw that through big stretches last night, including Aaron freaking Gordon just going nuclear on the Warriors defense. Can we show his numbers, including a wild stat at the bottom? 50 points for Aaron Gordon against Golden State, a career high. 8 rebounds, 17 of 21 for the field, 10 for 11. He started 8 for 8 from three-point range, 6 for 6 from the line. You see that little stat that the great Ernie Johnson brought up on Inside the NBA last night. I had to include it on this graphic. Most made three-pointers by any player in his first game, tying none other than Terry Rozier. Like, what is it's unbelievable. What a wild league this is. So Aaron Gordon goes crazy. And Denver's up 9 in the fourth quarter, and it's like, oh boy. You know, Jokic kind of had a rough night shooting the basketball, and we'll touch on that in a moment. But Aaron Gordon just got it rolling. And it gets close, and both teams going back and forth, and Warriors take the lead, and then the Nuggets take the lead, and it's tied, and then Aaron Gordon hits a big three with 25 seconds to go to put Denver up 3. I'm thinking, gosh darn it, we're going to end up losing this game. I wanted to win the home opener, start 2-0, beat Denver, a team that's a legit contender in the West. And of course, the man who is the baddest man in the history of the game of basketball. His name's Steph Curry. Chances are you've probably heard of him before. And he goes berserk. So it hits the game-tying shot from 34 feet out to tie the game. Warriors go to overtime. And Steph, and it's so funny that I talked about Dan Campbell on Tuesday's show. And you're like, well, what the heck's Dan Campbell have to do with this? As I said, Dan Campbell has often minimized to, kneecap biting. We almost like great motivator, and we almost minimize his other great coaching qualities. I liken him to Steph Curry. Steph Curry, greatest shooter ever. Of course he is, but we minimize, he's also an amazing ball handler, and he can finish. You saw it last night, finish at the rim at will against some of the perimeter defenders that the Denver Nuggets bring to the table. He's got a floater. He's got a mid-range. Obviously, he's automatic. He has literally not missed a free throw this year through 2 games, obviously. From the line. Can we show you what Steph Curry did against those Denver Nuggets? You see some of those defensive stats, too. Steph has never gotten credit for how decent of a defender he is. He's not a turnstile. He's not a cone the way that people think that he is. 42 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals and a block, ladies and gentlemen. 14 of 25 for the field. 6 of 12 from three-point range. Perfect. 8 for 8 from the line. But let's show, most importantly, what Steph did, because most of this damage was done in the fourth quarter and overtime. When it really matters most. Steph in the fourth quarter to put the Nuggets to bed, as you see him doing the night-night. 22 points, 6 for 9 for the field, 3 for 4 from three-point range, 7 for 7 from the charity stripe. So Steph, when it's all said and done, he was just 2 seasons ago, of course, the clutch player of the year. What I said on Tuesday after the Warriors beat the Lakers, and, last night just makes me even more excited, because let me say something. Knock on wood. And I said, Steph, Jimmy, Draymond stay healthy. Biggest knock on wood ever. The Warriors going to win the title. I've said it, standing by it. Those 3 stay healthy, they're winning the title. Part of the reason I said that it was exhibited in the Lakers game is that Steph was good. He had 23 points. Steph had a pretty good game. Acted defensively, made some shots. Steph was good. He doesn't have to be brilliant for the Warriors to win. He doesn't have to be Superman every single night in year 17, age 37, going on 38 this March for the Warriors to win basketball games. Jimmy can close. Draymond can find open shooters because of the gravity of Steph, like a Buddy Hield, like a Brandon Pajemski. Heck, these days, like a Jonathan Kuminga, who's got a 3-point shot. But when it's time, when they do need him, he's lethal. We all know this. Behind the back, the handle, catching off of screens, hitting, tying 3-pointers from 34 feet out, ladies and gentlemen. None of this is shocking. Again, we know we've seen Steph do this for years. But it's what makes this team so darn scary. And what has been a big knock on the Warriors for a while has been, Steph's great and Draymond's a great defender, and they are deep, and Kerr's a great coach. The one thing they're missing, they don't have size. Like, Kevon Looney was a serviceable big, and Kevon Looney, listen, God bless him. Warriors, he's not a Warriors legend. That's too far, but 3-time Warriors champion. I loved Kevon Looney. Miss him. I hate that he's in New Orleans now. But outside of that, they really didn't bring any size to the table whatsoever. And so this offseason, they acquired Al Horford. Al Horford's old. He's washed. He's over the hill. Really? Because I saw him guard the best player in basketball. Don't we agree? Like, Jokic, he's probably the best player in the league. More people than not would agree with that. I saw him guarding Jokic, and he basically shut him down. Can we show those numbers? Nikola Jokic, best player in the world when defended by Al Horford. 3 for 12, that's 25% from the field. 1 for 7 was Nikola Jokic in the fourth quarter and overtime. So instead of Draymond, who we all know is a great defender, but Draymond is, do the math, what is he, 7 inches shorter at best than Jokic? Probably more like 8. Draymond's about 6'5.5", to be honest, probably 6'6" in shoes. Jokic is about 7'1". Like, that's a massive mismatch. Draymond's a great defender. Draymond did get the stop on Jokic to force the game to overtime. And Denver thought it was a foul. It was great defense. There's no way I'm playing if that was a foul. But not for a whole game. You cannot drain Draymond that much. You have to guard that guy the whole basketball game. But Al Horford on him. And you know what I loved? Warriors don't have size. Is it because of the depth, because of the versatility that they bring to the table? There's a million different lineups they can use. And because they enter the season now knowing it's Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, the crew, we got a whole 82-game sample size. We can experiment with lineups. We can see what works. Steph Curry said after the game, the lineup I'm about to mention, we didn't really get any reps at all with this in training camp. The Warriors finished the game, end of fourth quarter, all of overtime. Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Kuminga, Horford. So a big in Horford, an athletic wing in Kuminga, really a 3 in Jimmy Butler, and Draymond is the jack of all trades, and obviously Steph is your 1. So they can bring size and athleticism and versatility and length to the table. So, and Steph talked about this after the game last night, why that lineup, worked for the Golden State Warriors last night.
I mean, Aaron Gordon had an unbelievable night shooting the ball. So we try to keep some size on him. And then, Al, we've seen it again, playing against him for years. He's pretty good switching 1 through 5. And so it allowed us a little bit more versatility on defense to just, keep a man on the ball and not have to be in crazy rotations. Obviously, they scored some points, but then on the other end, we were just really decisive on getting to our spots. We only had 8 turnovers in a game, overtime game. And so if you get shots up, you don't give, especially a team like Denver, easy baskets in transition, then you give yourself a good chance.
Smart basketball down the stretch. You've got a lot of vets. Steph, who's played a million of these games before, and Draymond, they played together, obviously. Jimmy, same thing. Horford, same thing. And this team is freaking terrifying. I'm sorry, it's terrifying. You beat the Lakers, okay. Lakers are a good playoff team. Without LeBron, they're a play-in team. With LeBron, they're a good playoff team. They can win a series, nothing more, because I've told Lakers fans, I'm warning y'all, you're not going to like DeAndre Ayton after a while. The fumbling in the paint, the effort is not great, not that good defensively, not really a rim protector at all. So that's a good road win for the Warriors. Last night was the measuring stick. I said this on Wednesday. Denver can win the West. No questions about it. It was all said and done. The baddest man in the history of the game of basketball. The guy who I would argue with Jokic, Wemby, who we'll talk about later, Luka, Shea, Giannis, name all the best players in the league. I would argue last few minutes of a game, there's not a player in the league you'd less rather have the ball in his hands than Steph Curry, because he is going to kill, because he's got the whole bag. Obviously, we know the 3-point shot, but if you're going to play him tight, drive right past you, get to the rim. He can finish with an athletic package, and he's strong enough to finish against bigs down low. The mid-range, he's unguardable. We know this. So, yeah, I was quite pleased with the Golden State Warriors' victory over the Denver Nuggets last night. I really was. And the Warriors, ironically, by the way, tonight, guess who the Warriors' opponent is? Back-to-back. The Portland Trailblazers in their very first. Honest to God, I don't know what to expect. I was thinking about after the excitement kind of wore off from last night's game. I was like, okay, we got Portland tomorrow night. I don't know what to expect with the Chauncey Billups situation. I think Thiago Splitter, former San Antonio Spur, who we remember got LeBron pinned his block in the 13 finals. I think Thiago Splitter is their interim. And Portland's got a nice, young, talented team. Like, they almost beat Minnesota the other night. I like some of the additions they made, in the offseason. Like, Portland's a good team. Maybe that might be a play-in contender. Who knows? Like, they're building. And so are they going to be just demoralized? It's in Portland. Are they going to be demoralized? Are they going to be just shell-shocked? Are they going to be like, it's us against the world, and then, come out and blitz the Warriors? I honestly do not know what to expect tonight. It should be interesting. All right, we will go to break and talk some NFL. Talk about the LA Chargers. I think at this point, they got a big-time win over the Vikings last night. I think at this point, there's kind of only one way for the Chargers to have a serious chance at contention. Talk about that and Victor Wembanyama and the Vol View and Nick Saban and World Series prediction and Week 8 predictions. Oh, we've got a fun show. Stay tuned. Be back in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Before I get to the Chargers-Vikings game last night, I just saw this on my phone. I've just been consuming this Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, and Damon Jones scandal the way the rest of you guys are. This was Shams was on Caitlin Collins' show last night on CNN and said that Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups' attorneys expect a 6 to 12-month minimum court process. Like I said, this is going to be a really long sort of drawn out like it's going to take a while. This is going to be a lot more information. Listen, I can't wait in a decade. The Netflix documentary, this is going to be crazy. So we'll see how it plays out. All right. Unbelievable. basically 38 minutes into the show. And we're just now getting to the NFL topic. So Chargers, and part of it's because the game wasn't particularly close. Chargers beat the Vikings, last night, 37-10. I'll say this before I get to the Chargers aspect of this. And it goes to something that I have said over and over and over on this show again. Is this, man, the games are rigged for the Chiefs. No, the Chiefs are just on TV more than anybody because they've been the most successful team in the league. And because there's more eyeballs on the games, any missed call that goes in favor of the Chiefs, that goes against the Chiefs, gets amplified. There's a big old exclamation point next to it. Whereas in a game like last night, where you can, I'm telling you folks, maybe because it's a blowout, you can tell. It's gonna sound kind of mean, but it's true. You can tell when some people really don't watch football and they base their ideas and conspiracies off of internet memes instead of actual information. Because last night, first drive of the game, Chargers are driving. It's 0-0. First drive of the game. Justin Herbert throws a pass. Isaiah Rodgers, who has had an unbelievable year with the Vikings, goes down, gets the interception. The ball does not hit the ground. I'm sorry. When they show that angle, I did not think the ball hit the ground. I thought he had full control of it. I mean, if the ball did hit the ground, that's fine. You still have to have possession of the ball. Gets up, runs all the way for a touchdown. It's like, oh my gosh, pick six. Minnesota's up 7-0. They called a pick six. They go back to review and they say, actually, the ball hit the ground. It was incomplete. There was nothing that was clearly conclusive that said, oh yeah, ball definitely hit the ground, kind of one hopped like a shortstop, ball hit it, and then went into his breadbasket. Okay, that's incomplete, move on. It was not obvious. And so you can tell that people didn't watch that game because there wasn't a whole lot of just outrage the next day. Excuse me. There wasn't a lot of outrage about people. It's like, oh, did you see that crazy Broncos comeback? Yeah, I did. Did you? Because the Giants touchdown to take the lead with under a minute left, they got down there? A bogus pass interference call. But if it's the Chiefs, then the sport is rigged, and it's proof of a league-wide conspiracy to continue a dynasty that the NFL wanted to have in, check my notes here, Kansas City, Missouri. And nothing against the great people of Kansas City, but why on God's green earth has Jerry Jones, who's made the NFL untold amounts of money, why haven't they rewarded? If they just rigged the games, they rigged the games, folks, why haven't they rewarded him with the Super Bowl? I digress. I don't even know what I'm talking about. For the Chargers, quickly. Obviously impressive win. Herbert was excellent, 3 touchdown passes. Excuse me. And the Chargers working without their top 2 backs. So Najee Harris, God bless him, is out for the season with an Achilles, which sucks. And then for Amari Hampton, who I loved out of North Carolina, he was starting to really kind of come on. It's like, oh, here we go. He's on IR right now. Without their top 2 backs, Chargers go for 200 yards rushing. Now, I think 62 of those, 62 if I'm not mistaken, came from Justin Herbert. But still, that's how Jim Harbaugh wants to play football. Go back to the Niners with Frank Gore, Colin Kaepernick. Go to Michigan with all the running backs they had there, like Blake Corum. Go to now with the Chargers, like I believe J.K. Dobbins, and now this year with Amari Hampton and Najee Harris, or anybody that they insert. He wants to run the football and establish the line of scrimmage. Part of the reason they did that, Joe Alt was back. Like that was you saw the impact immediately for this Chargers team. Put Joe Alt back in that starting offensive line. Herbert's got more time to throw. You're clearing more lanes, creating more lanes for running backs. The only way to me for this Chargers to have any chance of contention, they've got to get the 5 seed in the AFC. Because, what about they win the division? They're not winning the division. Kansas City's obviously going to win the AFC West. If I had to pick anybody else, it'd be Denver, because I think Denver has one of the better rosters in all of football. It's not going to be the Chargers. With the injuries, with the inconsistency, I mean, they just came off a stretch before this game when they lost 3 or 4. They're clearly, to me, the 3rd best team in the AFC West. If you get that 5 seed, you either get kind of a weak AFC North winner, be it Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, or Baltimore, or you get the Patriots, who will be inexperienced, or the Bills, who have an awful defense, although that game will be in Buffalo, so cold weather. That won't favor the Chargers at all. And you win that game, and you hope and pray to God that the seed below you wins so that they play the Kansas City Chiefs in the second round. Or you hope, this is going to sound disrespectful, that you avoid Kansas City and play Indianapolis in the divisional round. Because to be fair, Colts, no playoff experience, it's indoors, climate controlled, in Lucas Oil Stadium, that favors the Chargers. So then they could get to an AFC title game with Kansas City and see what happens. That'd be a fun game. Harbaugh, Reed, Herbert in the AFC title game would be great, but there's a very specific path for this Chargers team. There's not a, hey, let's just get in and roll. No. They need a lot of bricks to go in their favor. For the Vikings, and Patrick brings this up in the comments, and he's not wrong. What Kevin O'Connell did to Carson Wentz was quarterback malpractice. I troll deer in the headlights talking about Wentz, but man, he was beat to hell with each hit behind a banged-up offensive line. Yeah, Minnesota's O-line is just falling apart due to injuries, and yeah, I mean, I know Herbstreit was kind of getting on Wentz toward the end of that game. Like, man, Wentz, he's got to find a way to keep those emotions in. There's a part of that is true. Like, you want your quarterback to be stoic, to be very, again, composed and calm and all that. Easy for all of us to say we're not taking the beating Carson Wentz was taking last night. I could not believe that. And I think Kevin O'Connell's an awesome coach. Awesome coach. But him leaving Wentz in the game as late as he did, like all the way, the only drive he wasn't in was the last drive of the game. They put the backup in. Obviously, the game had well been decided by that point. Like, he was just getting the crap beat out of him. And so, man, for Minnesota, the one take I have for the Vikings, then we'll talk about Wemby. The one take I have for the Vikings last night is a really sobering truth that we see in the NFL. You can do everything right. GM's good in Minnesota. Forget just coach Kevin O'Connell. Coaching staff. O'Connell on offense, Flores on defense. I know last night wasn't Flores' best moment, but bad days happen. You got Brian Flores, your defensive coordinator. You got Kevin O'Connell as your head coach and play caller. That works. You've got, the best receiver in football, Justin Jefferson. You got one of, if not the best number 2 receiver in Jordan Addison. You got a great tight end, TJ Hawkinson. You got Aaron Jones running the football. You can do everything right. Be well run, great fan base. You got a legit home field advantage at US Bank Stadium. And if you don't have the quarterback, it means absolutely nothing as far as contending for a Super Bowl. You're cooked. Listen, I know Vikings fans and the organization was quite dismayed with how poorly Sam Darnold played in the last game of the year against Detroit, where if the Vikings had won, they would have got the 1 seed. And then in that playoff game against the Rams where he was bad, the O-line got worked. I get that. And they had an obligation. They felt an obligation. Hey, we drafted J.J. McCarthy in the first round. We got a lot invested in this kid. Listen, he's got, 2 starts in his resume? I wasn't blown away by McCarthy in college. I'll be honest, I wasn't. The arm strength didn't wow me. The accuracy, hit or miss. He played in a very, very structured offense at Michigan with a great O-line, with a great running game. They didn't trust him to throw the ball much. He didn't have to. And now you're stuck. Now it's J.J. McCarthy. Now it's Carson Wentz. And now you're in a position where you might, probably not next draft, but the draft after that, 2027, you'll probably have to take a quarterback. And it's right back to square one. And Sam Darnold was nobody's game manager last year, folks. I think he had 37 touchdowns, if not mistaken. The mobility was there. Like this guy, this was not a Brock Purdy situation where it's like, oh, it's the system. System mattered. Weapons mattered. This guy was making unreal throws. The throw to Justin Jefferson against Seattle last year is one of the better throws a quarterback made in all of 2024. Where he's on the move, throws it down the left side. It's an unbelievable throw. Back shoulder, it's crazy. So, yeah, safe to say they made a mistake moving on from Sam Darnold. So, I have to talk about Wemby. I know we're a full 48 hours removed or almost 48 hours removed from his game the other night against the Dallas Mavericks, but I had to talk about this. So 8 months away from the game because of a blood clot that he suffered toward the second half of last season. And so he comes into this game, and this was billed as, yes, Wemby, crazy talent, number 1 pick 2023, has shown signs, clearly the best defensive player in basketball. Like, we all know that. Spurs, nice up-and-coming team. They've got some great draft picks and Stephon Castle and these guys. But the story coming in the game was Cooper Flagg debut. And Cooper Flagg wasn't awful in this game. He had a double-double, 10 points, 10 rebounds. It's first game in the NBA. He's gonna get better. But safe to say he was overshadowed by the man who put up this stat line. Wemby against the Mavs. 40 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. Shot nearly 75% from the field, 15 to 21 to be exact. And he did it in 30 minutes. Quarters, 2.5 quarters. He did that in 30 minutes. When I was watching that game the other night, and it's a shame that the betting scandal news broke Thursday morning, because that whole morning would have been dedicated solely to Wemby. And I feel like he again, I know it's game 1 of the regular season. We're not October, for crying out loud. I get it. I feel like he'd earned that after a long time away from the game and all of it. But, and by the way, before we get into it, Wemby did talk after the game about what this moment meant to him.
I mean, it's just what we work for, All of us got our own battles and struggles, and God knows I worked hard in the summer, so it's paying off. All dreams are allowed now, I'm just glad to be back, because after what I've lived, it means something.
Yeah, I bet he was. I mean, it was it was a long time away from the game. And, I mean, let's just keep it a buck. The guy was going to win Defensive Player of the Year award easily last year. I mean, I remember this is when I was still in Florida, we were having discussions. Is it Dyson Daniels? Is it Draymond Green? Is it Evan Mobley who ended up winning the award? If Wemby was healthy, it would have been, I think it would have been a unanimous vote for Defensive Player of the Year. That's how dominant Wemby was. And we saw that the other night. But now he's got a consistent, good shot, decision-making offensive game. Wait, we know he can shoot the 3. He hit the step back and one, which was sick. He can cross you up. He can score at will in the paint. He's out here rockabye baby reverse dunks like, oh boy. It's like, this guy's 21 years old. You hear my voice shaking because I'm nervous. And every fan of the other 29 teams in the league should be, because there is a chance for this man. He's not there yet. I think there's some premature discussion on Wemby. Is he the best player in the world now? Not yet. He could be by season's end. If the Spurs get into the playoffs, and I think they're a playoff caliber team. Let's say they win around. Let's say they upset a Houston Rockets. Let's say they upset, let's say they upset the likes of the Lakers or something, right? Like, that wouldn't be a huge upset, I guess, but it could be an upset. They say they beat the Lakers. And say in round 2, it's Spurs, it's Nuggets. Jokic, consensus best player in the world, same position as Wemby versus Wemby. And let's say the Nuggets win, but Wemby outplays Jokic. He's the best player in the world. That I would feel comfortable putting him in that discussion. No question. Because if you are by a mile the best defensive player in the league, it's not even close. Best defensive player in the league. If you can be the 7th or 8th best offensive player, you're the best player in basketball. Straight up. The offensive end matters more than the defensive end. That's why Draymond Green was never in the discussion. Is Draymond Green the best player in the world? No, because he was, even at Draymond's peak, he was a decent offensive player. He's, not to the level of the elite guys on that end of the floor. But if Wemby is, and he's by a long shot the best defensive player in the league. By the way, speaking of defensive players, he did what he did the other night. Not on some journeyman big, not on guy who's been on 5 NBA teams and the team's hoping he can be their starting big. He did that on Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, who, listen, it's a crime that Rudy has 4 DPOYs and he has 0. It's a basketball crime, and I've said that for years. Anthony Davis is one of the best defenders of this generation. And he looked like a high schooler against Victor Wembanyama. And when watching that game, I couldn't help but think about not award shows, but talent competition shows. Think about, American Idol or The Voice or America's Got Talent. And when you watch those shows, and when you watch it's very similar to sports. Even the average person who maybe they're not really, it's weird to have someone not into music, but if someone is maybe not as in tune to the music industry as certainly like the judges are, or someone who isn't like a diehard sports fan or like casually watches sports, but it's not like a part of their day-to-day life. What those two proverbial people, have in common, you can detect 2 things instantly. Either, oh, they're awful. Oh my gosh, they look overwhelmed out there. I always use the example. There's, every year I love watching America's Got Talent. And there's always that one guy every year that shows up, and he's like this nice guy. He's got a great story, and, kids love him. He's a good dad and husband. But mom has told him for years that he can sing, and he does it. And about 10 seconds in, he's got 4 X's. Like they buzz him out. It's bad, and it off the bat. You can detect bad very quickly. And you can detect generational very quickly. The example I use, I'm going to stick with the America's Got Talent thing. And I don't know where her career's ended up by now. I hope well. I'll never forget as long as I live. I think it was 2017, watching America's Got Talent. Still smile when I think about it because it was so bizarre. There's a girl, she was, 13, 14 years old. Her performance was at the end of the show. And for those that don't watch America's Got Talent, in the opening, on the auditioning stages, the last act usually is the golden buzzer. And the golden buzzer automatically sends you to the live shows. You don't have to go through another round. It's like getting a first round bye in the NFL playoffs. You get an automatic bye to the live shows. And so she comes on stage. I'm like, wait, she got the golden buzzer? Okay, let's see how this plays out. Because you kind of assume that because he was the last act. And she's very quiet, very to herself, very meek, kind of like, she's a kid, obviously. It's a big moment. And I'm thinking, what is she's going to sing? Okay, she's going to sing. How's this going to work? And I think the song she chose was it Too Hot to Handle or something like that. I think that's what the song's called. I could be wrong. And just crushes it. And by 5 seconds in, you're like, holy crap, this girl's amazing. I mean, I remember Howie Mandel is on there, he is falling back in his chair, oh my God. And he was the one who gave her the golden buzzer. And this guy's giving her Janis Joplin comparisons. You can recognize it instantly. When LeBron James was the chosen one, Sports Illustrated, watch LeBron's high school highlights. It's like, oh yeah, he doesn't look like everybody else. This guy looks different physically. And even his first NBA game. Yeah, that guy's going to be awesome. He had a great first NBA game against Sacramento Kings back in 2003. Yeah, he's going to have an amazing career. Bryce Harper, Tiger Woods, like Victor Wembanyama. Like, say it out loud. 7'5" guy who, by the way, clearly has put on muscle. Victor is clearly, and this happens with all NBA players. Like, you come in, you're kind of skinny, you're playing against grown men, you got to put on muscle. Wemby has clearly done that. 7'5" guy with a handle who can shoot threes, finish at the rim at will, and oh, by the way, don't even take the basketball anywhere near the restricted area or he is sending your shot to Mars. Yeah, that guy's going to be an all-time great. Like, no question about it. So what he did the other night, like that was, yeah, if you're a Spurs fan, you're ecstatic. The only thing is, can he stay healthy? Knock on wood. We hope Wemby stays healthy. If he does, and you're a fan of the other 29 teams, as I am, kind of nervous. Like, he's 21. What's he going to be at 27, 28? Right as he's entering his prime. Sweet. Oh, Lord. That's terrifying. That is terrifying. Patrick Brown. Wemby. He says ... Yeah, Wemby. This young man is on another level. Put on muscle and attack the rim at ease. Made AD injury-prone loading. Dang. Look very small. Who's the other prospect people are high on? Scoot to my loot. Yeah, that was so come on, Scoot Henderson. And I actually did like Scoot a lot in that 2023 draft. I liked him more than Brandon Miller, who, by the way, has played pretty good basketball for the Hornets. He's been better than Scoot. See what Scoot does tonight against the Warriors. But when people were out there, I mean, you had credible people out there saying, man, Scoot's going to be better. Scoot's going to be better than Wemby. Guys, I love athletic point guards like the next guy, but A, they've never come close, never even come close to leading teams to sustained success. And B, better than the 7'5" guy who's got an offensive bag and is unstoppable in the defensive end. He's not going to be better than him. And I'm pulling for Scoot. I really am. Seemed like a good kid. He's got talent. I hope he works out. That was thank you for bringing that up, Patrick, because people thought Scoot was going to be better than Wemby. That was insane. Patrick, NBA on NBC, inside the NBA, the nostalgia of it all made basketball feel authentic for a change. Round ball rock. Oh, love round ball rock. Followed by the graphics. Basketball's back where it belongs. And it's, I was live on the air Wednesday during when Inside the NBA had their first show on ESPN. So I was kind of bummed that I missed it. So I went back after I got done and, watched the show. And I was just, oh, thank God. Same graphics, same music, same, Studio J. We knew they were going to be in the same studio. We already known that. They were going to stay in Atlanta. Same team, same goofy tweets that they show making fun of Chuck, like same dang show. And I will say again, when people actually thought, people like, oh, ESPN going to be politically correct. Like, it's not going to be the same show it was. Within the first show, Chuck is talking about George Santos being freed from prison. Like, you're going to tell Charles Barkley what to say? Like, come on. Hey, Charles, we want you to lay out. I mean, Patrick puts us the comments. He says, Charles Barkley didn't crack a joke about the women of San Antonio. Give it time and he'll let it fly. Yes, he'll let it fly. Of course he will. Especially as the Spurs keep winning and San Antonio comes up. It's inevitable. And let's Charles Barkley. Sir Charles, you are not allowed to talk about the women of San Antonio. You're not allowed to talk about the situation Jussie Smollett years ago. That was, oh my God, that was so funny when Charles was talking about that. You're not allowed to say, yes, sir, I will adhere to ESPN. No, the show is not going to change. Again, the graphics, was it going to be ESPN graphics? Was it going to be the show? That stays. It's basically the exact same show. There's just an ESPN logo. It's outside that, same show. Who he played for, Shaq to the full. It's the best sports show on television. It's the best sports show of all time as far as I'm concerned. So the fact that people thought, oh my God, it's not going to be the same. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. You really thought Charles Barkley, heck, Shaq for that matter, was going to just, sit there, be corporate. We are going to do the show as we are being told to. No. But by the way, what they got to lose? Oh, yeah, Patrick. Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Police presence at the Staples Center still golden. Oh, my God, that was so funny. There's a 1 hour video, Charles Barkley being the funniest man alive. It's gold. It is gold. Last Charles Barkley thing, we'll then move on to the Vol View. 1 hour into the Vol View, by the way. Usually we do it at the 6:30 mark. Now we're doing it at the 7 mark because we've had a crazy show. But there's a thing where him and Chuck and Ernie are playing Papa Shot. And Ernie makes the first shot, and so Charles has to respond. And he goes, "Where to keep my money at, Ernie?" And then he freaking bricks it. And it's so funny. All right. The Vol View, we're back. And I must admit, I'm a bit down in the dumps after our last week played out for my Vols. But there's hope on the horizon. And I will tell you why in this week's edition of the Vol View, which starts right now.
In Tennessee.
Indeed it is. The Vols are back this Saturday, tomorrow night, in Lexington, Kentucky, a place I've been there before, by the way. Lexington, beautiful, beautiful city. I actually went to the Mary Todd Lincoln house. I believe it was the house she grew up in. And because y'all know I'm a huge fan of presidential history. It was very, very fascinating. Lexington, beautiful, beautiful part of the country. So with that said, Vols play there. They play the Kentucky Wildcats, of course, and Tennessee is a favor of 8.5. We'll predict the game in just a second. I'm sure you're going to be shocked at where I go in this game. As for last week, third Saturday in October, that didn't go too well. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't great either. So the Vols go down early to Alabama. They come back, tied up 7-7, score a touchdown, get a field goal. Or my bad, they get a safety and then get a touchdown. So it's a 9-point lead for the Tide. Tennessee's driving down the field. It's 16-7. It's like, okay, Vols can put together a scoring drive, even a field goal. Okay, down one score, go in the locker room, make the adjustments, and go play a great second half. And the Vols get the ball down to the 1-inch line. 9 seconds left in the half. Tennessee, by the way, has no timeouts. No timeouts, 9 seconds left. So you can't run the ball. You run the ball and Bama stops you half ends. You come away with nothing. And the Vols decide to call a play action. That in and of itself is a bad idea. Because a play action, you're exposing the quarterback. Bama knows you're not running the ball. You're not running the ball with 9 seconds left at the 1. By the way, not in a 4th and goal, by the way. If it was 4th and goal, yeah, because it's the last play of the drive anyway. It wasn't the case. They go play action. By the way, without Tennessee's top 2 receivers on the field. Chris Brazzell on the sideline. Braylon Staley on the sideline. It's a jumbo formation. Play action, Joey Aguilar, who, to his credit, Joey Hasley the offensive coordinator, did have Miles Kitzelman open. And Joey Aguilar, a guy who's running out routes to the pylon, throw it to his outside shoulder. So that if he doesn't get it, nobody gets it. Instead, Joey Aguilar, and I love me some Joey Aguilar, but he throws it to his inside shoulder and pick 6 100 yards. And that's it. That's the game right there. Because Tennessee, I thought would they have the offensive firepower to be able to get back in the game? Sure. Could they get the stops? Probably not. Although the defense was better than I anticipated. They forced a turnover, aside from a couple of drives. The first drive of the game for Bama, 91 yards, and then a 99-yard drive in the second half. Other than that, I thought they actually did play relatively well, at least given how they had played previously against Arkansas and against Mississippi State and Georgia. So the bad news for Tennessee is their chances to make the SEC title game in Atlanta are pretty much zero. They're already at 2 conference losses now. That the top of the conference, the Bamas, the Texas A&Ms, the Ole Misses, the Georgias would have to absolutely collapse for Tennessee to get to Atlanta. So that's probably dashed. So that's another year since 2007 that Tennessee does not get to Atlanta. However, it's also out in front of them for the college football playoff. First of all, they're ranked 17th in the AP poll. That means, that means nothing. The college football playoff poll, which I think comes out in 10 days or so, the first playoff poll usually comes out in early November, the first one. Those are the ones that matter. Those determine if you get in or not. So Tennessee's 17th ranked now. We'll see where they're at in the playoff poll by the time it comes out. Based on Tennessee's schedule, they're 5-2 today. Based on Tennessee's schedule and based on the conference they play in, run the table, you're in. It's that simple. A 10-2 team is not going to miss the college football playoff out of the SEC. Just not going to happen. Tennessee scheduled from here. Kentucky tomorrow. Okay, Kentucky is... Boy, they had Texas on the ropes last week, and Mark Stoops makes as dumb of a coaching error as you will ever see. The game is 13-13. Right? It's a tie game in overtime. Clearly a low-scoring game. Clearly Texas's offense with Arch Manning has done nothing. You're at home. 4th and goal. Normally, if it's a high-scoring game, 4th and goal, one, man, you go for that thing. You don't play conservative. It's tied at 13. Texas's offense done nothing. Kick the freaking field goal. And by the way, Texas did do nothing on their ensuing offensive drive, but their defense stopped Kentucky the one, field goal won the game. So, yeah, Mark Stoops, Kentucky fans are calling for his head, and I can't say I necessarily, blame them for wanting him fired. So Kentucky tomorrow for Tennessee. From there, next week, this is a massive game. Oklahoma at home. Oklahoma, who, by the way, I think is going to be Ole Miss this weekend. So I love Oklahoma. I love John Mateer. If you can beat Oklahoma at home, that's a big-time win. From there, by New Mexico State, that's a W. At Florida scares me because we haven't beaten Florida since 2003, and even though Florida is literally imploding right now, they always play their best game against the Vols. So even last year, they always play the best game against the Vols. So I'm not going to call that an automatic W. So Tennessee should win that game. No guarantee. And then an inadvertent gift from the college football gods. The Vanderbilt Commodores are a college football playoff contender. So we sit here today, 6-1, 10th ranked in the nation. Diego Pavia out here doing, Heisman poses. What if Vandy comes into that game 9-2? Let's say they lose one more game because they still play. They play Missouri tomorrow. I think they'll probably beat Missouri. I like Vandy in that one. They still got Texas. Auburn's frisky, and then you finish with Tennessee. Tennessee wins that game, so they will have had a ranked win against Oklahoma. And if you can win a game against a 1 or 2 loss Vandy team, and you finish 10-2, yeah, you're in. You're in the playoffs. That simple. What has to happen to make that happen? Stay committed to the run. Deshaun Bishop is playing unbelievable football this season. He was really the only bright spot on the Vols offense last week. The offensive line, continue to protect. Joey Aguilar has got to make better decisions with the football. That was kind of the knock on him at Appalachian State, and was kind of the thing that I was a little bit concerned about. And glad he transferred, obviously, to Tennessee. But that was kind of the big knock on him at Appy State, is he can be a little loose with the ball. He can be a bit turnover prone. And we've seen that this year. Cut the turnovers, cut it loose, but minimize the errors. And Tennessee's defense, force turnovers, play bend, but don't break. Do that. Your toughest 2 games the rest of the way, Neyland Stadium. And part of the reason there's a number of reasons that's important beyond the obvious. But if there's one thing we've learned the last 2 college football seasons, including this one, it is really hard to win on the road. So just look no further than last week. Tennessee lost to Bama on the road. Texas Tech, 7th ranked Texas Tech, lost at Arizona State. Ole Miss lost at Georgia. LSU lost at Vandy. Go up and down the list. I mean, last year, Ohio State lost a nail biter to Oregon at Autzen. Neutral site Rose Bowl, that game was over before it started. Buckeyes rolled the Ducks. It's hard to win on the road in college football. Well, Tennessee got a road game tomorrow. Get a W against Kentucky, which I think they will. I think they cover. I'll go 38-23. Tennessee just get a good old-fashioned W on the road at Kentucky, a team you've been rivals with for basically a century. Tennessee wins 38-23. They do cover the 8.5-point spread. They get to 6-2, and then it's on to Oklahoma next week, and that is obviously a gigantic game for the Tennessee Volunteers. All right, we'll go to, actually, we won't go to break. That's it, basically, for this edition of The Ball View.
football time in Tennessee.
Before we go to break, got a few comments here by my good friend Grady Edwards. How does it impact LeBron's legacy in regards to the gambling situation? Listen, LeBron is quite close with Damon Jones. Now, obviously, I do not think LeBron had any knowledge of this situation. Matter of fact, LeBron was, to a degree, I guess you could say, kind of, I won't say the victim of it, but Damon Jones took, let's put it this way, Damon Jones did take advantage of LeBron in the example we gave earlier, because Damon Jones, associated with the Lakers, helped Darvin Ham on that coaching staff. I think it was February 9th, 2023, I think was the game against the Milwaukee Bucks. The Lakers knew LeBron was not going to play that game. The general public did not know that yet. Damon Jones provided that to some gamblers so that they bet the Bucks. Bron didn't play, and so, God, this is so shady. I'm telling you, it is wild. Grady, I respect how Alabama has turned their season around. Maybe there's more to the Alabama head coach than I thought. You don't have to be Nick Saban, but just stay in the top 15, That's what people want from them at the very least. Listen, I've been a Kalen DeBoer fan for years. I think he's one of the best coaches in college football. I think, doesn't he have like a 19-3 record or something crazy against ranked opponents? I mean, last year, let me think in my head. Only ranked loss last year by Bama was to Tennessee. The other two was to unranked Vanderbilt and unranked Oklahoma. And so, but yeah, Bama undefeated at home in the Kalen DeBoer era. I thought he was an awesome coach at Washington. It's funny, I'm about to talk about Nick Saban after the break, but when Nick Saban retired, I'm like, yes, thank God, Vols fans celebrate. And Kalen DeBoer's the replacement. Dang it. So that hurt. And man, Kalen DeBoer in the black hoodie is just immaculate. He doesn't lose when he wears the black hoodie. Grady, it was an ESPN joke, the LeBron thing, because they always find a way to put LeBron in any conversation. Yeah, that was a funny meme back in the day. How does Live Golf being associated with the Saudis, how does that impact LeBron's legacy? That was always funny. All right, be back in just 1 minute to talk about Nick Saban, World Series prediction, and of course, as we do every Friday, NFL predictions for Week 8. Be back after just a 1 minute break on Carving Up Live. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. I saw this story yesterday, and I wanted to include it on the show today because I don't want to sound disrespectful because I really respect the individual involved, but I just found it absurd. So Nick Saban, I mean, far and away the greatest college football coach of all time, and by the way, has been, in my opinion, has been a great fit on game day. The dynamic between him and McAfee is great in the sense, Saban is the, he's. If you think about a comedy, he's like the straight character, right? Like he's just, does his thing. I'm gonna talk about Alabama football, and then you shift to McAfee and he's ripping his shirt off and doing all kinds of crazy shenanigans. And they've got a good dynamic on there. But Nick Saban, who is really retired from Alabama because he didn't necessarily want to have to deal with NIL, which, hey, each his own. I can't knock him for that. He had a successful career at Alabama. I think Clemson fans wish Dabo Swinney would do the same thing instead of just trying the old 2015 mode of competing in college football. But hey, it's each his own. He's running Clemson into the ground, but knock yourself out. At least Saban had the foresight not to do that to Alabama. But Saban was talking in an interview with ESPN the other day, and I love, honest to God, even as, I didn't mean to hit the mic. Even as a Vols fan, I love Saban. I have immense respect for him. This is This is ridiculous. Show the quote. This is from his interview with ESPN talking about NIL. I'm not surprised because everybody's raising money to pay players. So the people that are giving the money think they have a voice and that they're just like a bunch of fans. When they get frustrated and disappointed, they put pressure on the athletic directors to take action, and it's the way of the world. Now, he said that in reference to some of the coach firings. He was talking about James Franklin, who was on College Game Day on Saturday, and Nick Saban said to his face, "This is ridiculous that you're sitting up here with us. You should be coaching Penn State." And Billy Napier was fired by Florida. Mike Gundy was fired by Oklahoma State. Colorado State fired their head coach. There's been a lot of head coach firings to have not even made it to November yet. Okay. How on earth does NIL have anything to do? How on earth does paying players have anything to do with coaches losing their jobs? And it's not without cause either for not doing a good enough job. In the case of Billy Napier, and I'm sure my buddy Tim Barner tomorrow, Saturday Morning Tailgate, and this is a good opportunity to plug Saturday Morning Tailgate, which airs, of course, tomorrow, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time, live on the Grid Network. Myself, Tim Barner, Arthur Hurst will break down everything in college football, give you our top 25s. We have special curated segments for our favorite teams, and of course, we'll give game day picks at the end. Tim Barner is a big-time Florida fan, and I'm sure he'll talk about this tomorrow. Billy Napier getting fired. Billy Napier, folks, was 22-23 at Florida. He was 12-16 in SEC play through 4 years. 4 years he was there, and they accomplished nothing. They accomplished absolutely nothing. This is Florida we're talking about. This is one of the prestige, not necessarily a blue blood program in college football, because they've only been great really the last 30 years or so, but when they've been great, they've been national championship great. That's not going to cut it. Not with Florida talent, not when you're getting out-recruited by some of the other great programs in the state of Florida. Billy Napier didn't cut it. When you're out here losing to South Florida at home, when you're out here, DJ Lag was out here throwing 5 picks against LSU, you're not even able to gain 200 yards of offense against Miami. That falls on the coach. You've been there for 4 years, recruits are there, you've been active in the portal, and you still can't win. That's on the coach. James Franklin, look. I really like James Franklin as a guy. I try not to be too hard on him because I actually, again, from a distance, I actually like James Franklin a lot. You lose to Oregon. That's another top 5 loss or top 6 loss, I guess, in that case, but it happened. The game went to double overtime. Your team was down 14 in the fourth quarter. They fought back. If Drew Aller doesn't make a disastrous mistake on the interception double T, maybe you win that game. Who knows? And then you turn around and lose it at UCLA. Well, listen, UCLA, we've seen what they've been since then. They haven't lost. They're 3-0. Neuheisel has been just this jolt of energy in their offense. Nico's playing well. UCLA's played good football. And then you turn back around at home in Happy Valley and lose to Northwestern. And at that point, I say often on the show, you can lose games. You cannot lose the locker room. And I think I could see a scenario in which Penn State had national championship aspirations. I would imagine you lose at home, by the way, whiteout game to Oregon. It's human nature. A little bit of doubt creeps in. God, that's another good team we lost to. And then you lose at UCLA, dang, we as good as we think we are. And then you lose to Northwestern. It's no, we're actually terrible. Lost the locker room. Fair or unfair. And I wouldn't be shocked if James Franklin gets another opportunity elsewhere. I hope he does. But he had to go. He did. And so for Saban to put this on play, it's very, and again, I honest to God, folks, I do respect Saban. But when the coaches make upwards of $10 million a year in some instances, when there's no salary cap on what you can pay a coach in college football, when they are, the thing that's so different about college, this is why a lot of college coaches don't work in the NFL. I'll tell you why. Because in the NFL, generally, it's big. Green Bay is the exception. Jacksonville, it's in big cities. It's in Dallas and Miami and Los Angeles and New York and all these big, Chicago. I'll just use the SEC, or not even the SEC. In college football, it's Columbus, Ann Arbor, Happy Valley, Tuscaloosa, Knoxville. Go up and down the list. Gainesville. You are the celebrity of that town. The college football coach, in some cases college basketball, we're talking about Duke or something. But in these programs, particularly the SEC, the college football coach is the biggest celebrity in that town. So you wield a level of power that you just don't in the NFL. Not a lot of checks and balances there where there is in the NFL. You got a GM to answer to. You got an owner to answer to. There's the city. If you're in a big city like a Los Angeles or New York, if you're not good, fans aren't showing up. Whereas in Tuscaloosa, that's all they got. They don't have a pro team. And so if the players, which I've been a proponent of the NIL since the show started back in 2019, and I do believe there do need to be guardrails. It can't just be the Wild West. But the idea that it's a problem for players to profit off their own name, image, likeness, and accomplishments. I mean, I think I saw something where the average college football player makes like $10,000 in NIL. Like, yeah, the big stars, the Carson Beck skit, he's not really a star, let's be honest, but it makes $4.3 million from Miami. That's different. Average salary of a college football player, $10,000. It's nothing. You got college kids that are working part-time jobs that make more than that. That's always what I've said as a joke, because you got any college kid can go out there and work a part-time job in addition to their school, but a college football player can't make money for making untold amounts of money for the program. And now, according to Saban, they're to blame for head coach firings? Paying players is the ills of all of college football today? Please. And by the way, as if the thing that people were panicking, oh my gosh, all the big programs like Alabama and Ohio State and Notre Dame and Georgia and Texas. You mean the programs that have always run the sport? Like, nothing's really changed. You look at the rankings today, and it's like, Indiana's really the only exception. But you look at the rankings, you're like, it's Ohio State, and it's Miami, and it's Alabama, and it's Georgia, and it's Texas is down there in the rankings, but Texas is ranked, and USC's been ranked, and Michigan's ranked, and the Notre Dame's ranked, and the teams that run college football still run college football. So, again, I respect Saban to the nth degree. I honest to God, I really do. Come on, man. James Franklin was not fired because they paid players at Penn State. Billy Napier darn sure was not fired by Florida because, matter of fact, Billy Napier maybe should have paid more players. I don't know. Because he was under 500 as Florida's head coach. 4 games under 500 in the SEC at Florida. That's not going to cut it in 4 years there. So, and I don't even disagree with Saban in the sense that fans are so quick to fire this guy. I cannot tell you, Vols fans are notorious about this. I cannot tell you the number of times Tennessee has one bad game or one weird. I didn't love their game plan against Alabama. I'll be honest, I didn't. Man, Heupel's just not going to get you the promise. Do you remember where we were at before Heupel? Do you have a memory that short? Do you remember the Butch Jones days and the Jeremy Pruitt days and the Derek Dooley days? You want to go back to that? You want to go back to struggling just to be bowl eligible? So I agree with Saban in the sense that fans are, and it's fan, my guy Colin Coward always says it best. Fan is short for fanatic. Like, you're going to be more irrational than, preferably, than the decision makers would be. Than the donors and the boosters and all of it. Athletic director. Fans are too quick to be trigger happy with getting rid of coaches. I agree. But players getting paid for their own name, image, and likeness. When the average salary of a college football player is $10,000, that ain't the reason that Billy Napier is getting fired. And same with James Franklin at Penn State. And Mike Gundy, who was doing an awful job at Oklahoma State. So there you go. All right. World Series begins, and at the time of this live show, less than an hour. And I'm not going to lie, I'm very, very excited about it. We got the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's get the intense background music going on right now, because this is going to be the 2025 World Series. Out of the National League, the defending World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Out of the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays, making their very first appearance in the Fall Classic since 1993. Ironically, by the way, 1993, last time that Canada won a Stanley Cup. Just saying. It's y'all's sport, and yet America runs it. Just saying. Either way, and by the way, I got friends who are Canadian. Shout out to the Cowboys camp fan. It's not personal. It's not personal. And I'm not even a hockey fan, but I just wanted to throw that little reminder in there. But this is going to be a better series than people think, and here's why I say this. So the Dodgers are favored to win, as we know. They're the defending champions. We have not had a back-to-back champion in Major League Baseball since the 90s, since the Yankees, when they three-peated in the late 90s. This squad in particular, though, the lineup of Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, then you go to Teoscar Hernandez, and you get to Max Muncy. Like, these are, we know what they bring to the table. The rotation, to me, has not gotten enough credit, in my opinion, by the general public. You start with Blake Snell, who's a legit ace. And then you go to Yamamoto, who's awesome. Then you go to Tyler Glasnow. And then to Shohei freaking Ohtani's pitching in the World Series. That is going to be a challenge for Toronto. But not as much of a challenge as people think. Why do I say that? Well, the Toronto Blue Jays in the postseason have scored 71 runs. The Dodgers have scored 46. So this Toronto offense is explosive. If there ever could be a team that's explosive, George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr., they've got the lineup to do some damage against the Dodgers. And especially, I would argue there's no group of players in the series that has more pressure on them than the Dodgers starters, than Snell, Glasnow, Ohtani, and Yamamoto. Because it's going to be the World Series, it's probably going to be close. If you're trailing, if you have a rough night at the ballpark, the Dodgers bullpen, which ranks, I believe, 22nd in ERA in the regular season, and they've been good in the postseason. They have. But we have a 162-game sample size. Maybe they've gotten hot. That happens in the postseason over a 1-month sample size. But I do have concerns about the Dodgers bullpen in that regard, and I can see them blowing a game, maybe 2 in this series. But what I was thinking about, all the major storylines, Ohtani's the best player we've ever seen, and Mookie could get 4 rings, which 3 of them would come outside of Boston because our idiot front office traded him. And Freddie Freeman, defending World Series MVP, can he get another one? And Dave Roberts could be a 3-time World Series champion as a manager when half of Dodgers fans wanted him out of there a million times over the last few years. When you think about World Series MVPs, you think about the big stars, and that's not always been the case. Think about Jorge Soler with the Atlanta Braves. It wasn't Freddie Freeman. It wasn't Dansby Swanson. It wasn't any of the excellent starters on that team. Jorge Soler. Obviously, hit the bomb home run in Game 6 against the Houston Astros. I think that ball still hasn't landed yet. Think about Steve Pearce with my Red Sox in 2018. Steve Pearce. Wait, not Mookie Betts, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez. Steve Pearce? Yeah, because Steve Pearce got hot. He hit 3 home runs in the last 2 games. We've seen Mike Lowell with the 07 Red Sox. Not Poppy, not Ramirez, not Dustin Pedroia. Mike Lowell. Good third baseman, by the way, but no one thought he'd be World Series MVP. It's always one of these unsung heroes. The guy I'm about to mention is not necessarily an unsung hero, but he is a former Toronto Blue Jay. Teoscar Hernandez. He will be your World Series MVP. He will strike fear into the hearts of all Blue Jays fans. And the Los Angeles Dodgers will win the World Series in 2025. They'll do it in 6 games. Toronto's offense is too explosive for me to say, oh, it's going to be a quick series. 6-game series. Dodgers win it. They become the first team in the 21st century. Hard to believe. We're a quarter of the way into the 21st century. First team in the 21st century to go back-to-back. And thank God, if they do it, they provide baseball. They have something they have not had since the 90s Yankees. Something that, to me, for pro sports to be at their most healthy and most popular, that they need a villain. A team that they've got their fans that love them and everybody else hates their guts. Like they pull against them every game. Baseball's not had that. You can say the Astros were a villain, but they were a villain because of something they did that broke the rules. The Dodgers didn't break the rules. Spend more money than the big market teams. That's on the big market teams. I talked about that last week. That's on the Red Sox, and that's on the Phillies and on the Mets. In some cases, for spending money in the wrong places, not putting together a legit Major League Baseball rotation. That's on the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's on some of these big market organizations that aren't spending the money. Dodgers are. Good for them. Take advantage when other teams won't. All right. Hour and a half into the show. I figured that this would be about 90 minutes in before we get to NFL predictions in Week 8. So to recap real quick, do we have the, let me get the graphic up on here. Oh, yeah, we've got it. Here we go. The graphic for how I did last week and how I've done overall this season. Go ahead and put that up on the screen. So overall, not bad. 70, 37, and 1. Obviously, the one tie being Cowboys-Packers. 4 games, under 500 against the spread, but an improvement. If you look there at the bottom, 11-4 for me in Week 7, 9-6 against the spread. Upset of the week was just, that was a crushing loss. I had the Cardinals over the Packers, and I was feeling so good about it. It's 10-0, and now Jacoby Brissett gets the ball late, and he's driving, and then Micah Parsons ends my hopes of getting that upset right. But I'm still 4-3. I got Bleak Bet correct. And Betman, 9-12. If I can put together 3-0 week, back to 500. I've been under 500 all year. We're going to win you money on this show. I'll tell you right now. So let's get the background music going for NFL predictions. Here we go. All right, we will start, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start with the New York Jets, the still winless New York Jets, on the road taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, best believe I'm pulling for the Jets. I want the Bengals to lose. I don't want them to get any sort of momentum before we play them soon once again, this time in Pittsburgh, because Joe Flacco cooked my defense. Regardless, Bengals in this game are favored by 6.5. So, for the Jets, is Fields starting this game? Because Fields got benched in the second half for Tyrod Taylor. Now Tyrod Taylor's probably hurt, so it's going to be Fields again. It's a never-ending clown show in New York with everything that's going on there. I mean, the owner's out here calling out Justin Fields. It looks like he's going to start again. It's a mess. For the Bengals, obviously, it's much to my chagrin. Big-time win over my Steelers. Right, Joe Flacco had over 300 yards passing. Jamar Chase broke his own record for single-game catches in Cincinnati with 16. T. Higgins had nearly 100 yards receiving. This Bengals offense looks like it might be clicking a little bit with Joe Flacco. Way more, certainly, than they were with Jake Browning. The Jets' defense is... the secondary is not very good, and I think that's something where the Bengals will expose it. So I will go with Cincinnati at home on extra rest to win this game. Cover minus 6.5. It looks like it'll be Fields starting. I don't think it'll matter either way. Bengals win this one 27-17. Over the New York Jets. It is now time for Bryson's Bleak Bet. It's the one game each and every week that I have absolutely zero confidence in predicting. But hey, you got to predict them all. I didn't know what to do with this game. I mean, from the line to the winner, I went back and forth all week. Chicago Bears on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. Don't know what to do with it. Ravens are favored by 6.5, and I don't like it one gosh darn bit. Lamar Jackson's back for the Ravens. That's great news. That's a big upgrade over Cooper Rush and Tyler Huntley. Cooper Rush was never a fit for Baltimore, and I said that in the offseason. So Lamar's back. He's their playmaker. He's, to me, indisputably one of the three best quarterbacks in football with Mahomes and Allen. Problem is, I don't think the Ravens' defense has been fixed over a bye week. That's the good news for the Ravens. They are coming off a bye. They're coming off, multiple losses in a row. 3 losses in a row to be exact. Matter of fact, 4 losses in a row. My bad. Trying to get back on track. The headlines and the stories and the reports about veteran players getting the ping pong table, the basketball hoop. How big is this locker room? Super Smash Brothers. Get it out of the locker room. This is a football first place. It feels like at this point they're kind of grasping for straws, which as a Steelers fan makes me very, very happy. I hope the Ravens don't run us down because Lamar Jackson scares me in that regard. Lamar's going to be great. Extra rest, off a bye. I think Lamar's going to cook a Bears defense that can be had. Can Caleb do the same to a Ravens defense that is objectively awful? Because accuracy's been an issue with him. About 61-62% completion. Did not play well at all last week against the New Orleans Saints. I hope I'm wrong. I go with the Ravens. I'll go Bears plus 6.5. Do I trust the Bears to go to Baltimore? I know the Ravens are 1-5. I get it. But it's still Baltimore. Do I trust them to go on the road and cover against the Ravens? Man, they might beat them. There were moments where I thought about picking the Bears. Wouldn't have felt great about it. Still would have made Bryce's bleak bet, but I'll go with the Ravens, I guess. I'll go with the Ravens to win. I guess I'll go with the Bears to cover. Not crazy about it. I'll tell you what I am crazy about. It is now time for my favorite segment of all time. It is called
Betting Man.
If I Were a Betting Man. Oh, I love this one. Miami Dolphins, Atlanta Falcons from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Falcons are 7.5-point favorites. Now listen, Atlanta burned me last week. They did. There was the one If I Were a Betting Man game that I got incorrect. 2 in 1 week, still a winning week. Thank goodness. But I took them plus 2.5 to beat San Francisco because of the Niners' injuries and the offense was non-existent. Now you say, Bryson, why on earth are you picking the Falcons to cover here minus 7.5? Well, I'll tell you why. Michael Penix Jr. is out. You know who his backup is? Old Kirk Cousins. Who's to say he doesn't have anything left in the tank? Especially against a Dolphins defense that is bottom 10 in virtually every statistical category. And against a Dolphins team overall, I don't know if there's a more divided team in a more divided locker room in professional sports right now. Again, I can't attest to hockey. I don't know anything about hockey. Baseball, I know there can't be a clubhouse this bad. NBA, maybe Portland at this point, but that's a whole different story. This is a disaster. Right, Mike McDaniel's clearly lost the respect of this team. They don't play hard. Clearly, the locker room's lost respect for Tua. I would too. I've lost respect for Tua, to be frank. pointing fingers, not thumbs. That seems to be to his brand over the course of the last year. Just an embarrassing performance last week against the Browns. Got run on. 2 had the 3 picks. It was a mess. And Atlanta's defense is excellent as well. Good pass rush, excellent secondary. If I were a bet man, I love the Atlanta Falcons in the spot in blowout fashion. 31-13. The Dolphins might be the worst team in football. It's either them or the Tennessee Titans. Falcons win 31-13 over the Dolphins. If I were a bet man, I love Atlanta minus 7.5. This next one was almost Bryson's bleak bet. I'm not going to lie. Buffalo Bills on the road against the Carolina Panthers. So Bills are a 7.5-point favorite in Charlotte. It looks like Andy Dalton is going to be the starter. Matter of fact, I think the Panthers have ruled out Bryce Young. I could be wrong on that. I know he was doubtful coming into today. So Buffalo's coming off of a bye, so that helps. The problem is their defense is awful, and it just got worse. Taylor Rapp, who's one of the better members of their secondary, they just put him on IR today. So the pass rush is non-existent. The linebackers are awful and injured. The secondary is awful and injured. And you're going against the Bengals. I said Bengals because I was thinking Andy Dalton back into the Bengals. You're facing a Panthers team with Andy Dalton, a team that's won 3 games in a row and has some mojo. A team that can run the football effectively, be it with Rico Dowdle, be it with, eventually, if he gets back, Chuba Hubbard. You've got Tech McMillan. You've got Xavier Legette. You've got pieces here. Carolina's not a bad offense. So that scares me a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. There's an element of this where it's, could I pick this as upset of the week? I decided against it. I'll go with the Buffalo Bills to win, and I'll take them to cover too. 26-17. I think this is going to be a backdoor cover. I think this is going to be a 23-17 Bills lead, and they get the ball late, kick a field goal, and get the backdoor cover with a minute to go and ice the game. Like that's the type of game that this feels like, but I do have the Bills winning this one. 49ers, Houston Texans from Houston. So the Niners, the Texans are 2.5-point favorites at home. I went back and forth in this game too, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll tell you what I do know. While we're in the conversation of over-unders and Terry Rozier, if you're actually Terry Rozier probably shouldn't gamble. That's probably something he should restrain himself from. If you are a betting man or woman, hammer the under. Hammer the under. It's 41.5, I believe, is the over-under for this game. You got the Niners offense and got the Texans offense. Yeah, hammer the under. By the way, it's both excellent defenses. Houston has literally the best defense in football. Derek Stingley Jr., Danielle Hunter, and Will Anderson has been great, and Henry To'oTo'o. They're loaded on that side. DeMeco Ryans is a defensive coach. Here's what I struggle with. Because on one hand, the more film that defensive coaches have gotten on Mac Jones, the worse he's looked. Shocker. He's limited. Can't move, noodle arm, accuracy, hit or miss. It was good on that last drive against Atlanta, but over the course of that game, Raheem Morris, that defense had Mac Jones in fits. But in this case, you're taking on DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans, who have, again, amazing defense. Defense and all they could to win against Seattle last week. The offense simply refused. The problem for Houston, though, is this. It's a problem of travel. So the Texans were coming off of a bye when they played Seattle, but that was a Monday Night Football game, by the way, that in Houston time kicked off at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. So late game. So you play in Seattle. The game ends, I guess, Seattle time. The game would have ended at like 10:30. You probably don't land back in Houston until the sun's probably already up. 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And then you got limited time to prepare for San Francisco, who's gotten, good rest here. Full week of rest. It will be a low-scoring game. I can't believe I'm doing this. Picking Mac Jones against the number 1 defense in football, but I'm doing it. Niners plus 2.5. San Francisco wins 16-12. Yes, 16-12 is going to be a... If you love defense, this is your game. It might be all season long. It's not going to be very many points in this one. Ricky Pearsall's still out. Maybe George Kittle gets involved. Maybe that's the difference. But yeah, what I'm curious to see is DeMeco Ryans' game plan to stop Christian McCaffrey, because no other defensive coordinators had the answer. Easier said than done, but given that Christian is the only real threat in that Niners offense, Kittle's back, but he's still not fully healthy. I'm curious to see what DeMeco Ryans does to stop him. But yeah, that Salah's going to have CJ Stroud in fits, and dang sure DeMeco Ryans is going to have Mac Jones in fits. What do we got next? Giants-Eagles, NFC East matchup. Eagles at home are a 7.5-point favorite. So A.J. Brown's out for this game. A.J. Brown's got a nagging hamstring issue, and there was, by the way, more cryptic posts by him on social media. So for the time being, he's out for the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's what I struggle with, and I think we're going to find out a lot about the New York Giants this weekend, in the sense of, man, you had a team on the ropes. You had a team down, 19-0 in the third, 26-8 with 5 darn minutes to go in the game. And he, of course, end up losing in one of the most historic comebacks that we've ever seen. 33, not unanswered, but 33-point score by the Broncos in the fourth quarter alone. Is this an element of, man, we're pissed off, we shouldn't have lost this game, let's go out and... Or is it, there's still a bit of demoralization for Scadaboo, for Dart, for that defensive line? Brian Burns has been playing his tail off this season, is a DPOY candidate as far as I'm concerned. We'll see. I tend to think that it'll be the former. That it's a division rival. Both teams are familiar with each other. After all, you did just kind of crush this team 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. Philadelphia's, there's a revenge game aspect for them. Saquon Barkley, can he get it going? Saquon Barkley, we can show you his numbers, has been, do we have Saquon's numbers? Here we go. Been a no-show this year. 22nd in rush yards, 27th in yards per game, tied for 42nd in yards per carry, tied for 17th in rush touchdowns, and he has yet to break a 20-yard run this year. It's been shocking how little production they've gotten out of Saquon Barkley. And so, I like the Giants to cover in this game. I'll take the Eagles to win. I do not trust the Philadelphia's defense against the likes of Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, especially after what we saw a couple of weeks ago. Again, personnel-wise, I don't think that the Eagles match up terribly well against the Giants, against Robinson and Jalen Hyatt and some of these guys. So I like the Giants plus 7.5, divisional game, but I like the Eagles to win outright. Eagles need to win this game. They cannot get swept by the New York Giants, and I think they will. Next game, what do we got? Okay, Cleveland Browns and the New England Patriots in Foxborough. The Patriots are a 7.5-point favorite. Here's what's interesting. The Browns are, if the Texans are the best defense in football, it's the Cleveland Browns. They've been great. I would argue they are better than what their numbers say in certain regards because they're on the field so darn much. Because the offense for them, last week notwithstanding, is 3 and out or turnover. They cannot move the football. That's part of the struggle for them against the New England Patriots. Despite the secondary injuries, New England should give Dylan Gabriel and that offense fits. Dylan Gabriel was not very good last week against a bad Dolphins defense. Can Myles Garrett affect Drake May so much that for the first time since week 1 against the Raiders, that loss to the Raiders still looks strange. That's why you can't base everything off week 1 right after it happens. For the first time all season since week 1, to have a passer rating under 100. Because the thing about Drake May, he's been crazy efficient. He's been great with his legs. He hasn't turned the football over. The deep ball's been working. He's playing MVP level football. He has. He's been fantastic. I think there will be moments. I think there will be stretches where the Patriots go through like offensive lulls, but ultimately they are the better team. They do win this game and cover 26-16 over the Cleveland Browns. Patriots over the Browns 26-16. What do we have up next? Do we have it? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Next up, Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the New Orleans Saints, which happens to be my second game for my favorite segment of all time. It is called
Betting Man.
If I Were a Bet Man. Looking at this one featuring two NFC South rivals, Tampa's a 4.5-point favorite on the road, and they have been really good against New Orleans lately. Listen, Mike Evans is done for the remainder of the regular season in all likelihood. Hopefully, knock on wood, he'll be back for the playoffs, assuming Tampa does what they're supposed to do and wins the NFC South. But Emeka Egbuka, played last week against the Lions, didn't really get that many opportunities in large part because Baker Mayfield was hurried, had to get the ball out quickly, was overthrowing guys, in some cases was throwing hospital balls to guys. They were out here getting crushed by Detroit defensive backs. We know Baker. We know that chip on the shoulder. This is a division rival, Saints, Bucs, Saints. No love lost there, although Marshawn Lattimore is now with the Commanders, so it's not as tense as it used to be. Baker's the type of guy, short week at New Orleans. We hate the Saints. Let's just get a bounce back win and put up 1 million points. If I were a bet man, I love Tampa Bay minus 4.5, especially because Spencer Rattler's been, he was atrocious last week against the Bears. As bad as Caleb was, Rattler was 5 times worse. So I've got the Buccaneers minus 4.5. If I were a bet man, Tampa Bay bounces back. Division rivalry, 34-21 over the New Orleans Saints. Stay as far away from this next game as possible. Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans. It's not that I don't think the Colts will lose the game. Shocker, I'm going to pick the Colts to win. 14.5 points is just... Listen, I know the Titans are bad, and I know the Colts. Can we show this graphic one more time? Because it might be updated. Do we have the graphic? It might be updated by next week. Most points per drive in the 21st century. Colts, 3.46. 07 Patriots, with Brady and Moss, are in second at 3.14. Kansas City Chiefs in 2018, 3.08, with obviously Mahomes, Tyreek, and Kelsey. And that's what the Colts are doing. They are vastly outpacing both of those teams and outpacing every team in the 21st century thus far in terms of points per drive. Again, I know the Titans are bad. It's the turnovers that's killed Tennessee. Tennessee has a 10-3 lead last week on New England. Right? You had a guy in Cam Ward have been playing well, and here we go. And then he's out here dropping the ball on dropbacks. It was a disaster. It's been a bad year for Tennessee. We know this. Do I like it? Not in the slightest. I'll take the Colts minus 14.5, 34-13. I think their offense has just been too darn hot. I would not advise you bet Indianapolis. Frankly, I wouldn't advise you to bet this game at all. But 34-13 is my final score. Okay. So as y'all out there know, prior to last week, tragically, I had a red-hot upset of the week streak. I started 0-2. If not for the freaking Jaguars blowing it against the Drake Browning Bengals, I would have went 5 straight, but I'm not bitter. 4 consecutive game win streak, ups of the week. It was, for a time, known, I think, nationwide as the single hottest segment in the world of sports. Well, we're bringing it back this week. It is now time for my upset of the week. I love this one. Give me America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, over the Denver Broncos, 34-30 in a high-scoring shootout. Extravaganza in the Mile High. Dallas plus 3.5, and they win this puppy outright, 34-30 over the Denver Broncos, and here is why. So number one, Denver is coming off of a wildly emotional, crazy, who could have seen that coming, 33 points in the fourth quarter to win that game last week over the New York Giants. So just naturally, there's a bit of a letdown, especially that you're in the friendly confines at home. There's a natural letdown. That's number one. Number two, you saw I've got Denver getting 30 because I'm sorry, I don't care about last week. Dallas still is an awful defense. Unless DeRon Bland has another pick 6 in them, they're going to get torched this week by Denver. That offensive line against Dallas D-line, massive mismatch. But here's a bad stat for Broncos fans. Bo Nix, when his defense gives up 20 or more points, he has a record of 2-8. Not ideal, not great. And so when you have all those components factor into the equation, I understand Denver has not lost to the Dallas Cowboys, I think in like 11,000 days or something crazy. I understand that. But Denver is not perfect. As good as they are defensively in terms of their personnel, Drake Greenlaw's out. All right, so that's going to create some opportunities for Javonte Williams, kind of making his homecoming to Denver, right? Javonte had a great rookie season, kind of fizzled out, had some injury-riddled seasons. Now he's in Dallas. He's top 5 in the NFL in rushing. I truly believe, even despite the concerns at offensive line, and that does scare me, is, man, that Dallas O-line that's 30th in pass protection against Nick Bonito and Zach Allen, that's not great. That concerns me, however. Who's the best quarterback in the world against pressure? It's Dak Prescott. It's Rain Dakota Prescott. Pro Football Focus comes out. Like the grades against pressure, and Dak consistently week by week is in the top 5. In some cases is number 1. So, upset of the week. Dallas over do we have the graphic? Here you go. Dallas over the Denver Broncos in a shootout. Dak leads a game-winning drive with a game-winning touchdown pass to really whoever Patrick Surtain is not on. Whether it's CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Cowboys win, they get to a winning record for the first time this season. Said it last week after that win over Washington. They're going to make the playoffs. I'm telling you right now, the way Dak Prescott's playing, some of the best football in the history of the league, 4 straight games with 3 touchdown passes, no turnovers. Only 5 other guys have done that. And their names, by the way, Brady, Rodgers, Russell Wilson, again, when he was in his prime, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning. Pretty good list to be on. That's what Dak Prescott's going to do. Rain Dakota Prescott, upset of the week, Cowboys over the Denver Broncos. And now, I can't wait for this one. It is now time for my favorite segment of all time. It is the third game for...
You're a betting man.
If I were a bet man, here we go. It's the revenge game. And frankly, in this household, in the Carver household, there's going to be a lot of bad blood over the course of the next 48 plus hours. It's my sister's beloved Green Bay Packers taking on my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. The story in this game, obviously. By the way, Packers are a 2.5-point favorite in Pittsburgh. Story of this game, Aaron Rodgers making not his return to Lambeau, although that would have been, I guess, more cinematic, but Aaron Rodgers playing his former team for the first time since he spent the first 18 years of his career there, won a Super Bowl, won 4 league MVPs, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, as far as I'm concerned, with respect to Favre and the late Art Starr. I think Aaron's the greatest quarterback in Packer history. I've always said that. There's a revenge factor. And even for the Packers as well. Man, all the drama and all this and all that. So you gave us grief. Anything we did in the front office, and Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love's looking to prove, hey, y'all made the correct decision moving on from Aaron. Look at me. Y'all paid me. I'm going to go in Aaron's house and get a W. Here's some bad news for the Green Bay Packers. First of all, they have not played. I know they're 4-1-1 and they're the top seed in the NFC. They have not played a start-to-finish good game since week 2 against Washington. And now looking back at seeing the Commanders today, it's not that impressive of a W, let's be honest. Week 3, lost to the darn Browns. Week 4, tied Dallas. Probably should have lost that game. Week 6, Joe Flacco. I know he did it to my Steelers too, but Joe Flacco put a real scare in them. Weren't that good defensively against Cincinnati. And then last week against Arizona, if Micah Parsons doesn't save your behinds, you probably lose to the Cardinals. And Jacoby Brissett, who throws for 280 on you. So Aaron Rodgers, we know this about Aaron. For all his faults, for all the fact that he's not a very good postseason quarterback, as I've detailed many times. When Aaron's playing with a chip on his shoulder, when Aaron's playing for something bigger than just himself. Remember, Packers drafted Jordan Love because, hey, Aaron's on the tail end of his prime. Okay, I'm going to go out there and win league MVP. Aaron has a tendency. Against the Jets, he didn't like how he's treated on the way out against the Jets. I'll defend him there. Torch the Jets. Now, the Jets are the worst team in football. 0-7. It's either them, Miami, or Tennessee. It's 1 of the 3 in the AFC. And a Packers defense that can be had. The one thing that concerns me as a Steelers fan is, because this is such a get the ball out quick offense, which can neutralize the likes of a Micah Parsons, is Green Bay going to play press, jam the receivers to the line of scrimmage, not let them get a good head start, play a lot of man-to-man coverage, and then Aaron doesn't have enough time. The offensive line, you've heard me list my concerns for Pittsburgh. They play better. They're still not great. Micah Parsons is going to have a field day. That concerns me. I think with the concerns of both these defenses, because we know the Steelers under Mike Tomlin defense, 28th in the league, terrible. From a historical context, just to roll back in time, last time that the Pittsburgh Steelers lost at home to the Green Bay Packers, you got to take you back to December 6th, 1970. And let's show the quarterback comparison. 2 Hall of Famers, the late Bart Starr and Terry Bradshaw. Boy, times have changed. Look at those numbers. Bart Starr, not an awful game, but the completion percentage is awful. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 235 pass yards, 43% completion. Like I said, the game has changed, and a 63 rating. Terry Bradshaw, who, by the way, in his defense, was a rookie. Terry was never known for crazy accuracy. Terry Bradshaw gets the Packers December 6, 1970, the last time that the Packers beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh. 1 touchdown, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 picks, 110 passing yards. This doesn't even look real. 15% completion and a pass rating of 27. It took Terry Bradshaw having a pretty horrible, even by those standards, and he was a rookie, to be fair, a pretty horribly quarterbacked game to lose to the Packers, again, who have not beaten Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh since Richard Nixon was president. And so, I think you get a shootout. I think you get a back and forth duel between former teammates, Rodgers, Love. When it's all said and done, Aaron Rodgers gets the job done against his former team. If there's one thing I know, don't ever bet Mike Tomlin as a road favorite. Got into trouble with that last week. My bad. Always bet Tomlin as a home dog. He's a home dog. If I were a bet man, give me the Pittsburgh Steelers, my beloved Steelers, the W, plus 2.5, and the straight-up win, 28-27 over the Green Bay Packers. Steelers over the Packers, and if I were a bet man, obviously, because of that, I love Pittsburgh plus 2.5 to win the game. And with that, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time right here on YouTube as well as on X, Instagram and on Facebook. Also, be sure tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, check out the Saturday Morning Tailgate. Myself, Tim Barnard, Arthur Hurst, to break down all of the biggest stories in college football, all the biggest headlines, give you our top 25s, give you special curated segments regarding our favorite teams, the Vols, the Buckeyes, and the Gators. And of course, at the end, we're able to give you the predictions for all of college football in week 8. Or week 9, rather. So have a great weekend, everybody. It's going to be a great sports weekend. Unless you're Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, and potentially a lot more. You got to see how that continues to play itself out. We'll see you guys on Monday for what's going to be a great show. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. And whatever you do, never take the over on Terry Rozier. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.